And can you hear me? Is there anybody out there? Oh, you know what? I wonder if I have to have this on. I don't know. Never sure when I have to wear my little earbud and when I don't. But sometimes it's important. So, let's see. I think that it is working. My microphone says that it can hear me. My speakers say no. Anyway, I will continue to babble because I was just looking to see if I posted the link on Facebook, and I know that I didn't, but I did. And it's the same every week. So it's good to see you, Kim. And Tori, always happy to see you. I thought this week it would be fun to talk about trips, even though I feel like we've talked about trips before with Daisies and Brownies. I just got back from a great trip. I got to go to Scotland, actually England and Scotland, this last week with my family. My youngest daughter graduated from college, and my husband flies for an airline, and so we were hoping to do a Sound of Music trip. And then because of a weird passport thing and a thing called the Schengen Agreement, you can look it up if you're interested, we couldn't go to anywhere in the European Union except for the UK, which was fine because we had never been to Scotland before. And oh my goodness, it was so fun. And it was, yay, Kim, I'm good. I'm glad. It was so fun, and the people were super nice. And we had my folks with us, and it was just terrific. We saw castles. My husband drove on the left side of the road. I want to say the wrong side, but it was the right side there, but it wasn't the right side. It was the left side. And I had to sit in the very back of the car so I didn't go into a complete panic attack the first couple of days, and then I was just comfortable in the back of the car after that. And it was terrific fun, and it was good too because in a couple of weeks Madeline's troop is going to London. So Madeline and her compatriots in Troop 314 have all just graduated high school, and all of the leaders associated with this troop, that this troop has had a long and storied past. So there are a whole bunch of leaders that are associated with it, and everybody's kind of retiring. And while technically I haven't been a leader with it for the last few years because I've been working for Girl Scouts, I've been employed by Girl Scouts, I have continued to be with the troop because my kid is still in the troop, and I've been with all of these girls since they were at least in 7th grade, and Madeline's original girls since they were kindergartners. So it's kind of this wonderful culmination trip, and we're going to London, and it's going to be an adventure, and we can hardly wait. But these last couple of weeks are a little stressy, just making sure that everything falls into place the way it's supposed to. And there's a part of me that knows it absolutely will, because these are the same girls who 4 years ago had worked very hard to go to Washington, D.C., and we had a fabulous trip in Washington, D.C. And prior to Washington, D.C., they had gone to Boston. And prior to Boston, they had spent time in Portland. And all the way through, and prior to Portland, they did local Lewiston, Lisbon, Durham trips because that's where the troop is based. And in fact, at that point, they did them separately because they were in different troops at that point. And so as they've come together and merged troops, they've had to go back and redo some things. We've done Portland a number of times because it's very convenient for us. And they've ridden on buses and subways and trains. And so this will be the first time to ride on a plane altogether. But we know that they're ready for that because they've taken all the steps. And so it brings me right back to Daisies and Brownies because that's where it all begins. And those initial trips, and I know just a couple months ago I had Jen Russell on here and we were talking about how important those Daisy and Brownie field trips are. And they really, really are. Not only so that 10 years down the road, 8 years down the road, the girls will be ready to go abroad, but they're so important to really make tangible those things that girls get out of Girl Scouting, to really make real what it is to be a leader, what it is to be courageous, what it is to try new things. And school, I don't know, when you guys went to school, I don't know if they took a lot of field trips. I just remember as a small child, I felt like we took a field trip every 2 weeks. And I know that that wasn't the case for the girls that I've worked with over the years. Um, and for my own kids, they homeschooled until 8th grade. So they took field trips a couple times every week because mommy doesn't like to stay at home. But for the girls in our troops, they would have 1 or 2 big field trips a year, which is great. But with Girl Scouts, we have a little more flexibility, and we can travel a lot more. And so I am all about those fantastic trips with Daisies and Brownies, and figuring out how to make them fantastic. Because that's really the thing that I think catches a lot of people up. Some folks are like, well, I don't mind taking my own kids places, or my own kids and their closest friends places. But to take this group of Daisies or this group of Brownies someplace, that might be too much for me. And I absolutely get it. And that's why I want to really go over sort of the basics of putting together troops that'll be fantastic. So what makes a troop fantastic? I love that Tammy has joined us, because Tammy travels with Girl Scouts a lot and is also getting ready for a great big Girl Scout trip in a couple weeks. The number one thing is it's within reach. So just like I said at the beginning, these girls who are about to go to London, they couldn't have gone to London really if they hadn't done a trip of the magnitude of our Washington, D.C. trip. And they couldn't have done that one if they hadn't done some traveling to Boston and traveling around New England. And they couldn't have done that if they hadn't taken some time to spend in a big city like Portland and to explore the public transportation. I hope you all didn't just hear my stomach growl, because that was really loud. Public transportation and talking to people in a city, because it's a little bit different from talking to people who you know all the time. Finding out how to get from point A to point B using public transportation, or how to hail a cab, that kind of thing. And they couldn't have done that in Portland if they didn't feel comfortable in their own towns and in their more local towns. So we've really spent the 12, 13 years that they've been in Girl Scouts working and going step by step. Being within reach means really respecting their progression and meeting them where they are and helping them get to where they want to go. So that's a big one. And then having clear expectations, and everyone's expectations being clear. Lots of grown-ups are really good about expressing their own expectations very clearly. I expect everybody to behave herself. I expect everybody to do this, 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 and this. But what about the kids' expectations? Not that I think grown-ups shouldn't be in charge, especially when we're talking 5, 6, 7-year-olds. But sometimes girls are going into anything but the trips to the fire station or the police station or whatever with some expectations of their own. And if we don't give them a chance to talk about what those expectations are, then they end up being disappointed or behaving in a way that we see as misbehavior when it's really a frustration. Part of that progression thing, I always go back to the 2-year-old who bites. 2-year-olds bite because they don't have other ways to express themselves, right? They don't have the words or they don't have the processes to express their frustration, but they know how to use those teeth. And it's the same kind of thing with kids as they get bigger. If they're behaving in a way that doesn't make sense to us, it's probably because they don't know how else to express their frustration with what's happening, or they haven't been given the tools to behave in a way that's appropriate. So taking that time before the trip to talk about, okay, what's it going to be like when we go to the police station? Who are we going to meet there? Oh, we'll probably meet police officers. Who else do you think we're going to meet there? Somebody might say my dad or my mom, or, and that's important to know because you might not know that from your troop already. So finding out what the girls expect, because some kids might be scared. I knew one little girl who was terrified of seeing firefighters in their gear, which was not great for her mom when her mom thought about what if there's a fire in the house? My daughter's going to hide under the bed in the smoky bedroom because she's afraid of the firefighter. So, finding out that any kind of trepidations that kids might have beforehand, or things that they're concerned will happen, so that you can either alleviate their fear or you can help them work through it. That's huge. So one of the things that it's easier to do, I think, with the bigger trips is to say, okay, what do you want to see when we go on this trip? And have everybody write down things. We don't think to do that, though, with the fire station or the police station or the library. Maybe because we already know what's there, and so our confidence is a little too much for the kids, and we don't realize what they don't know. But yeah, oh, I love Tammy's thing. Tammy posted, and prepare a set of questions for the police. Exactly, or whoever, wherever you're going. Preparing a set of questions is great because it gives you that chance to talk about what are people looking for, what are they looking forward to, what are they nervous about, and what kind of things do they want to learn while they're there. For me, that's a big one anytime I travel with anybody. You can ask any of my kids. I'm a pain in the neck to travel with because it's like, okay, what did you learn? It's not always, what was your favorite thing about today, but what was something that you picked up today that you had never picked up before? My son, on this last week, my son headed me off by trying a different food that he'd never tried before every single day. So the kid ate haggis. Ugh. But he tasted it. He said it wasn't necessarily for him, but he was glad that he'd tried it. And he had blood sausage and venison sausage, and he tried lamb liver, which this little vegetarian here is like, ew. But, it was something he had never tried, and he figured I might as well try it because Mom's going to ask me what's something new that I did today that I'd never done before. And isn't that what we want the girls to experience when they go on their adventures, small and large? Try something that you've never tried before. Ask a question to find out something that you didn't know before. So they're thinking about how they want to go into it. But they're not going to have the skills to do that on their own if we just say, okay, we're in the car. When we get to the police station, be sure you ask a question that you don't know. Who has that skill when they're 5, 6, 7? Nobody. But if you take time as a group and you prepare some questions, then even if the girls don't remember the questions when you're there, you can have that list and you can prompt them with, hey, I remember Agatha wanted to know, do you have any kids named Agatha? I would love to see that we had a kid named Agatha in one of these Daisy trips. Agatha wanted to know how, if you have to wake up in the middle of the night to come into work if there's an emergency. Or Molly wanted to see one of you get into your full gear, but she's a little nervous about it. Would you be willing to do that? So helping the girls ask the questions that they tell you that they want to find out, and or feeding them questions. Molly, didn't you have a question about gear? And maybe she'll be brave enough to ask it herself instead of you're asking it for her. But that kind of thing, making sure that their expectations are clear. And then, oh, look at me with my my PowerPoint. The goals. So that kind of goes into what they want to learn. What are everybody's goals for the trip? And if one of your goals is, you girls have talked about, if you did some of that bullseye planning, do you remember bullseye planning where the girls said, oh, we want to go roller skating, oh, we want to go to Build-A-Bear, oh, we want to earn a whole bunch of badges, we want to go to Disneyland. And remember, Disneyland goes way on the outside. Okay, we'll go to Disneyland, but that's going to be a while off because before that we've got to do some other trips. Then you talk about the goals. What's one of our goals for this? Well, you guys said you wanted to go to Disneyland. In order for us to go to Disneyland in 10 years, we're going to have to do a couple of local field trips first, and then we'll do some more field trips, to help them see the progression. That might be a hard stretch for them, but you could do it. I've got great confidence in people who work with kids every day or every week. The behavior expectations. Not everybody knows what it means to be good. My idea of being good might be really different from Tammy's idea of being good, might be very different from Kim's idea of being good, might be very different from Tori's idea of being good. So let's leave the word good out. But, how do we behave when we're at the library? Should we run into the library shouting? No, probably not. How do we behave? And have that conversation with the girls about what's the appropriate behavior for the setting. And that could even expand to every different place has different appropriate behavior. So what are some behaviors that are absolutely not appropriate anywhere? Oh, we never hit, we never bite, we never do, that kind of thing. And what would be some behaviors that would be better outside than inside the library? Or what would be better at the library than at the police station? Or what would be better at the police station than if we go to where Kathy's mom works at the diner? Or, whatever. Get them thinking about behavior so that they have a clear picture of your expectation of their behavior, and you have a clear expectation of you have a clear understanding of their expectations of your behavior. Because some kids might need to be buddied with a grown-up as well as a girl. That would be a perfect time actually to talk about buddy system. But some kids might need a grown-up buddy truddy kind of experience, where some kids might be like, yes, see you grown-ups, I've got my girl buddy and we're going for it. So giving them that opportunity to think ahead. Think about how little we think ahead about things now. I feel like we rarely do it culturally, but this is a great opportunity for us to help girls build that skill. And then the support kind of ties into that buddy system, truddy system, and having grown-ups. It gives you a chance to talk to not only the girls, but to talk to the grown-ups, the parents, about, how many do we need? Do we need 5 parents, or do we need to have no more than the safety activity checkpoint numbers of 2 or 3 or however many it is for the number of girls you have? Because sometimes, have you noticed this? Sometimes girls are better without their parents, and sometimes girls are better with their parents. Sometimes kids have special needs, and so they need an adult, a dedicated adult for them, especially when they're out of the normal meeting place. And sometimes kids just behave better when mom's not present. So thinking about that with your leadership team ahead of time, and then talking with the girls and the parents about it. I always go back to Old Faithful of making agreements, because even if it's just for a field trip that's during the normal meeting time, okay, we need 3 agreements. What are our 3 agreements going to be on this trip? And I always try to get one of them to be have fun, but the other 2 to help me not have to be the bad guy to pull people back in, because, I am the meanest. It happens. Miss Tammy, I'm going to see you tonight, right? I'll let you type. And then the other part of it, having plans B, C, and D, and discussing them ahead of time. The nice thing with most of the Daisy and Brownie field trips is you don't have to worry too much about having plans C and D. Usually just having a plan B is enough. Like if you've planned a field trip for something outside, maybe you were going to go to the local all-star football game. I don't know if every community does that, but our community always seems to have the all-stars from Patriots and whoever come back. And I don't know how old these old all-stars are, but they come and they play football against faculty and police officers in our town or something. And people from all over the community come to that. That would be a great field trip for Daisies and Brownies, because it's in town. Their parents are probably going to it anyway, because it's sort of a big everybody comes together thing. And, it might be a fun thing for the troop to all sit together. So, yay, that's plan A. But what if it's a thunderstorm that day? Well, plan B in that case might be canceled because the event gets canceled. Or maybe you were just planning a bridging event and it was going to be outdoors and you were going to use an outdoor bridge, but thunderstorm. So instead of doing it outdoor, your plan B would be to move it into your normal meeting place and to use a little modified bridge just with some ribbons and flowers or whatever. For traveling, like this trip that we ended up taking last week, that's what made me think about the plans B, C, and D. Our original plan was to go to Austria to do the Sound of Music 50th anniversary woohoo, and I was going to be wearing some lederhosen and singing High on a Hill was a lonely goat herd, but I was foiled by the Schengen Agreement. And so the Schengen Agreement says that if you have a passport that's going to expire within 3 months, you cannot go to any of the European Union countries or Switzerland, except for the UK. You can go to the UK within that 3-month period. So rats, because both of my kids, their passports expire in mid-July. I had never heard of this. My pilot husband had never heard of this. When we went to the airport, they knew that it was true, or where we checked in, they knew that it was true, but they didn't know why it was true. And that was true at both the Portland airport and at JFK. So we learned things. A whole bunch of us learned really exciting things. But our plan A had been to go to one place, and we ended up going with a plan B to go to another place. That was delightful. And then while we were there, we had to have some plans B and C while we were there too, because the weather was, it was like we were here. The weather was just the same. It was chilly and damp. But it was kind of an adventure. We were like testing to see how flexible we could be. And we had a great time because we really went at it with that can-do, adventurous attitude that one certainly develops when one flies standby, but that one also develops when one works with other people's kids. So working with Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, in both places, I've gotten to see people in action go to plan B, C, and D as if nothing was weird about it at all. You know, it's just something that happens. And that's such a great resilient characteristic to help girls develop. Because think about the people you know who get panicky when things don't go the way that they've planned. That's not unusual. That's not an abnormal reaction. If things don't go the way you plan, it's normal to feel a little stress. But we want to help our girls develop that flexibility so that if things don't go the way they planned, sure, they might still be disappointed. We were all disappointed. We were not singing High on a Hill Was a Lonely Goat Herd with Maria. But we've still got the rest of the year, right? We still might make it. But we were so happy to do the things that we did do that we didn't waste our week being disappointed. And that's the same thing we want with the girls. We want them, sure, of course they want to do plan A, but if plan A doesn't happen, we don't want them to be so sad that they have to do plan B, that they don't recognize the beauty in plan B. So talking about that with the girls ahead of time. What if there's an emergency and we can't go to the fire station because all the firefighters are out protecting someone's house? What are we going to do instead? And coming up with that second option, maybe plan B would be to go to the library because the library is next door and it would be very convenient to just go there, and to maybe one of the books we can read while we're at the library can be about firefighters, but we'll also learn about the library while we're there. Or maybe plan B is for us to do a craft and an activity, a badge activity that we had planned for the next meeting, and we'll do it that night instead. So talking to them ahead of time, like it's not a big deal. Even if that's something that gives you some anxiety, it's a time for you to practice not passing on anxieties to your kids, because that's an important skill for grown-ups to develop too. It's not always an easy one, but there you go. So those are some of the things that I was thinking about for making trips fantastic. What do you have? What else makes a trip fantastic for you? Anyone?
Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
I think that the big thing is that it's the girls. All this stuff that you talked about, the goals, the behavior, the expectations, the agreement, if the girls do the input on it,
right,
then it really is a great trip. If they do if they make a scavenger hunt to see Portland or something like that,
right,
it really makes it a great trip.
Right. Well, because everybody loves what they plan, right? We like our own ideas. The big hitch with that is that it takes so much longer. But, who's in a rush? Where are you going? What's the big deal? I laughed because I was reading somebody's, I don't know, on one of the Girl Scout pages that I read, and I don't know if it was Volunteer Swap or if it was somebody else, but somebody was saying how frustrated she was because she couldn't find something out, and she's trying to get all of her meetings planned for next year. I was like, oh dear. So, yay. And it's that thing of when the girls help plan it, it goes so much better, whether it's a field trip or just from meeting to meeting. I think she was talking about badges. So you don't necessarily need to have the girls plan the specific activities for each of the badges, but let's invite the girls to talk about the badges that they want to earn next year before you get your big 3-month jump on planning them.
Dawn, I know that it doesn't make sense too much for Daisies, maybe not even for Brownies, but one of the things I've always done with my troops is we camp at Camp Kirkwall, usually the weekend after Labor Day, or the following weekend. And the girls then have time, and we sit down with a calendar and we say, okay, what's one field trip you want each month? And then a couple of the girls plan that field trip.
Right.
With their parents, the whole bit. And we kind of do that with badges, too.
Yeah, I love that. I love when troops do that, because then there's that whole pride of ownership and pride of ownership really, but then there's also that understanding of how difficult it can be, and so there's an appreciation when other people do it. Yeah, I love that.
It doesn't take up meeting time.
Right.
Even with juniors, what we did is we did like a full day at my place.
Mm-hmm.
We had some fun and games in between, but we still did the planning.
Mm-hmm. And did it sort of separately, yeah. Yeah.
How would you guys suggest approaching that with first-year Brownies, which is what I'll have next year?
Yay.
Most of them have never seen both choices. My daughter's really well read. She can read really well, so she's been reading ahead in the Daisy book where it says what brownie patches will be in the new book.
Right.
But I don't think the girls are there yet.
Yeah, which is normal. But if you pull out that page in the girl guide that has all the badges shown for the Brownies, and just say, you can just have them pick out. And the ones who can read might read the titles, but a lot of them are going to pick out the ones that they like the look of. And, who cares? If they like the look of it, then you can read what it's about and say, do you guys want to do that? And they'll either go, oh, no, that's not what I thought. Or, yeah, that sounds fun.
This age, they say, yeah, that sounds fun to everything.
Which, how cool is that? Because that doesn't last, my friend.
I was thinking of possibly sending out something ahead of time for the parents that pick up a book for a girl, having each one of the girls come with an idea, writing it down, and talking about putting them vote on it. Do you guys think that they're too young for that? Would that work?
I definitely think that they're able to do that. Plus, that gives the parents a little chance to coach, which some parents will appreciate, and some parents won't because their daughters will have lots of ideas. But I think it helps the parents feel like they're connected to it.
That's good. And about starting the new year, October 1st, maybe have half the girls will be new.
Mm-hmm.
Do we wait, or do we make some selections before and then let those girls contribute maybe in another month or two towards? We'll be meeting straight through in September, but we won't have those girls until October. Right.
I say go for it. Go ahead and do it. And then when the new girls come, it's as if you've got a new group. And that's true for any age humans. As soon as you add one new person, you've got a new group. So you have to do new team building anyway. And that's when you say, okay, here's what we've looked at so far. We want your all input. So maybe have the seasoned girls share what they were thinking when they planned the stuff that they planned, and have them make the invitation of, what would you guys like to do in addition to this? Do any of you have ideas of other badges that you'd like to do too? So if you're thinking that the girls they might be able to do 6 badges over the course of the next year or whatever, only have them pick 3 or 4 that they plan to do, and then let them know after October 1st, as we have new girls, we'll have the new expanded troop flesh this out. But you don't want to wait, because if you wait, then you're just kind of marking time for those girls who were smart enough to join before, and we want them to stay interested and active. And if some of the new girls say, hey, but wait, we'd like to earn that one that you guys already earned, Great, because then those seasoned girls could actually lead the badge activities for the new girls on the badges that they just earned. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because that'll reinforce the experiences for them as well as introduce it for the new kids.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm all about let's keep this train moving at just the right speed. And anytime you can get girls inviting other girls and sharing in that peer-to-peer, the generous peer-to-peer way that girls are capable of doing, but they don't always know that they're allowed to do. It's a richer experience for them, and it's going to benefit our entire culture. So,
Yeah, we're hosting a Daisy flower party.
yay! Oh, that's wonderful. That is
Very excited
terrific.
to meet little girls and tell them what they've done this year.
Oh, that's so great. Is that part of their bridging steps?
Yes, it is.
Yay!
That's how infrequently the Daisies do that, because it's such a great time to.
Right?
It's an easy setup because the service units or the membership as a whole, they just put them on, and none of the girls. I mean, new girls go, or girls that are interested, but none of the seasoned girls go.
Right.
And I was surprised to find out that doesn't happen. It's an easy way to bridge, to just say, oh yeah, we'll pull one of those, or we'll join in.
I love that. Definitely take pictures and let's post that on the volunteer swap, because I think that one of the reasons people don't do it, or that the Daisy troops don't do it, is because they don't know it's an opportunity, that it's a possibility for them to do. It's not a small undertaking for your troop to do that, and so we're all super delicate and don't want to ask people to do too much because we don't want to scare anybody off. But there are people who are excited about doing that kind of a thing and taking that extra step. So, definitely post it and let's get that conversation going, because I'm sure that there are troops all over the state who would love that opportunity. It also really sets you up to be a sister troop, so that's neat.
Yeah, and they would have thrown the party anyway.
Exactly.
Put them together no matter what, so it isn't as much work as throwing an event from scratch.
Right. You don't have to invent it.
Exactly, and it's normally done on the flower garden.
Mm-hmm.
My girls, the final step on that is to teach others what they've learned.
Nice.
So each of them has a little piece with help them write a sentence on the back of their drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And them will have an opportunity to say their one sentence, which for some of my girls is a huge stretch for them.
Right.
I've got one that won't be successful at it.
Yeah.
But they have an opportunity to speak in front of these other adults and children that will be there.
How huge is that? That is so great.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the whole thing, and so we've just modified it ever so slightly, but they're joining in on us completing a journey that they could be working on.
That is great. I love it. Well, and how great is it for the grown-ups who are going to be there to see that kind of progress in just a 1 to 2 year period and say, oh, if those ladies can do it and if these girls can do it, maybe I can help. Maybe I can work with these daisies too.
So. That's actually another big piece of us helping to do that, is that they have me and my co-leader to testimony how we're doing it.
Exactly.
Jeannie, as a membership director,
right.
She's not a volunteer in the same capacity, so
right.
She's extraordinarily encouraging, but it doesn't have the same feel as I'm doing it right now, and so can you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the funny thing is, Jeannie, of course, was a volunteer for years and years, but nobody knows that anymore. So you're right. This is a perfect opportunity for new volunteers to see you. That is great.
Right. I'm standing there with my daisies. It's just a different impact, even if Jeannie said, yeah, I'm a daisy troop too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. Oh, I am so glad to hear that. That is fabulous. I would love to see that all over the state. Great. Yay. Where are you doing it?
Wilson High School.
Great. Oh, I hope that, what's her name? Eva comes by and sees. She would get a kick out of that too. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
I don't think that they're there because we had to do it through Jason Fuller. We had to schedule the cafeteria.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, they just had graduation yesterday too, so they might be done for a little bit. Well, neat. anything else? Because we're coming to the end of that 35 minutes that I want to be able to post on Facebook. So any other thoughts, questions, ideas, brilliances, things coming up about daisies and brownies and fantastic trips? Well, I'm so glad you came. You're terrific. You're wonderful, the things that you're doing. And take pictures and let's get them up. Next week, I'll be talking juniors and cadets with fantastic trips because I am all about the fantastic trips this month. So if you've got thoughts, even though you're working with Daisies and Brownies, if you've got thoughts for juniors and cadets, please do log in and share your brilliance. And we'll see you soon. Thanks. Oh, let's see. Where's my click? I made a slide. Thanks for joining us and thanks for doing what you do. We'll see you later.